Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast morning show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus year video game enthusiast and industry analyst. And today for April 28th, 2025, I'll go through the latest gaming news, what I've been playing, etc., etc. So, morning, Ultronymous. Hope everyone had a good weekend. This seems to be the first morning and maybe the start of something new where I didn't need a light jacket in the morning. And yeah, it's late in April. You think so in Texas. It's just kind of weird how cool it's been. But now it's a little warmer, so it was nice out. I love how bright it is early in the morning. I get up super early. I played a bunch of video games this morning. We'll get to that. Even did a workout this morning and then walked my youngest to school. So it's been a good morning for me. And it's funny because I was watching another video this morning. It's this guy, I think I talked about him before, Coffee with Drake. He does a video every morning. And he was talking about that this morning of like, it's good. Go a month running, or not running, but walking like this for 45 minutes to an hour a day. Do that for a month straight. And he says it'll change your life. And that's a good point. It's like, well, I do that. It's like, wait, no. Not a full 45 minutes and not every day. But I wonder if I change that. But that's not about video games, although it does help balance the video games because, yeah, I spent a lot of time this weekend playing one game mainly. So I guess we'll jump into that. Bam. Okay. Tempest Rising. I beat it this morning. So that was about a 20-hour game. You can see 20 hours, 37 minutes. An amazing time. Now, this is just the campaign. Obviously, with RTSs, there's the multiplayer component. There's skirmishes. I'm a fan of just doing skirmish battles, although it's different. I think back in the day when I was playing Command & Conquer Red Alert and Tiberian Sun, where you could do online, it was a little limited. Like I would beat Command & Conquer, and then I would spend time playing the skirmishes. I think I even remember, was it like Christmas Eve or something, or something like Christmas Day? I would spend some time in Red Alert 2 doing some tank rushes. Tempest Rising nailed it, and I've spoke about that before, and even more as I was playing it with this. So I beat with the one faction, GDF, I think, Global Defense Force, and then I just beat it this morning with the Dynasty. They're supposed to be more like Nod, but I also from Command & Conquer, but I also feel like what they did with the Dynasty is also make the Dynasty feel more Red Alert, which I think is a very smart idea. So you take the classic Tiberian Command & Conquer, but you do sprinkle a little bit of the Red Alert, which is what was kind of a advancement of that Command & Conquer formula. And I just love, like, for instance, I have this achievement that only, where is it? I think it said only like 12 or even less. Let me actually, sorry. Only 4.9% of players got this achievement where if you have a power plant next to a building, there's an option where you could do like this overcharge, and it makes the building it's next to produce faster, but it damages it also over time. So you have to keep repairing. I put 2 power plants next to a vehicle factory, overcharged both of them, and it was pumping out my tanks. And can I show you guys this? Hold on. That might be really loud. I'm going to upload this later, but this is the end map of Dynasty where, oh my God, I built so many tanks because the first time I played this map, I got destroyed at the end because they come at you with everything. And that's what I love. They knew exactly how to tune the Command & Conquer formula here. The game, and I think, hey, Chris, good to see you. And Ultronymous, I think you mentioned this, but this game gives you 95% of the time to sit back and build up. There are a few missions where maybe there is a certain submission that's like, you have 2 minutes to do this, you have 5 minutes to do that. But until you get to that, the game gives you so much time. So I lost this mission and then I didn't restart it because it auto saves along the way. It auto saved a perfect spot where I was able to like, okay, instead of activating the next part of the mission, I'm going to build up the biggest force possible, do all the upgrades. I had so much fun. I went across the map. I guess I went across the map and I was taking out the enemy. I'm the red on the top right here. I was taking out the enemy bases and taking over where I could get their supplies, so then I can, because the main objective of this base is I have to hold this gigantic enemy building up here with as many vehicles as possible and fend it off. It got crazy. Anyway, I'm really just bringing this up because Tempest Rising is a great game, but I think mostly people have moved on, I guess. I would say people have moved on the RTS, but there's still really good RTSs. I don't think people realize. I don't know. Let's do like Steam, I can't even spell Steam charts, Tempest. Oh man, I cannot spell. Okay. I'm actually curious. Well, that I guess that seems good in my opinion for like an indie, not necessarily indie, semi, RTS, old school RTS. I mean, it is 100% an old school RTS, but it has just enough of the modern flourishes again to make it super fun. I hope this is good. I don't know what they're expecting with numbers. I mean, let me, for instance, look at Gundam Breaker 4. Just because that's a game I like, but also, okay. So it's had a higher peak, but since then it's had a lower consistent. I mean, it's been out longer anyway. And I'm using this as an example because I really like Gundam, and it has very specific gameplay that's been around for a little while. Not a whole lot, but like Tempest Rising, these are both very like niche types of games. You would think the Gundam brand would be bigger, but I think at the end of the day, it's about the game. Even though Gunbreaker's fine for what it is, that is not what's going to pull the numbers. John, I'm saying I do love being allowed to turtle my enemies into oblivion. Yeah, and so you would like Tempest Rising. And it's funny because I didn't have this thought when I first got into it. My first was like, it's funny how much these games are like Souls games, but it's almost like I get in the game and going, okay, I got to hurry up and efficiently get an economy going so then I can pump out units while building defenses. And while some of that is true, you'll realize, and I'm playing on the default normal difficulty, not the hard or the easy. You'll realize they bombard you just enough where the game is expecting you to have just enough defenses and units to defend. But you'll kind of see as it goes where it's like, oh, I have some breathing room. That's a good way to put it. Tempest Rising knows when it needs breathing room in the middle of the micromanaging your units. Because it's funny, individual units have different individual abilities that while you're in the middle of battle, you want to go and click on that unit to do their ability or hotkey or whatever. So Gunbreaker 4 had so much potential, but they didn't go far enough in too many areas. Yeah, it seemed like, especially for a game that got delayed a year, it's pretty odd how bare bones it just kind of is like, oh, here you go. Here's okay. Let's go back. What else did I play? And I might even jump into it on the stream. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I guess not much because it only says 46 minutes, but it's funny how much the gameplay is really just real-time gameplay. It really is. And it's almost just a QTE. And I say real-time just in more of, oh, press it. Oh, press the button. Oh, press the button. Right time. That's all the game is. Not in terms of what it offers in value, but I just mean in terms of the mechanics. It's turn-based, but it is time-based gameplay. And I think that's pretty neat. A couple interesting things. One is the gameplay on its own is pretty interesting because it's more of, okay, if I do this, will that do a lot of damage? It's more of that than, okay, I'm going to fight this guy, and then I'm going to block here, and then I'm going to dash this way. I'm going to do this. No, it's not like that. It's like, okay, I'm going to choose an attack, but they're going to attack me, so I need to dodge at the right time. And then I could do this where I can aim, and I can aim as long as I want. No one's going to, and then I can shoot, and that's an option. Like, it gives you these options. The story, though, while intriguing and interesting, and I'm sure there is emotion behind the characters' thoughts, motivations, actions they take, I don't care about the story. And I think that, is not a big deal for me. A lot of times, guys, I talk about when I play games, I skip story. But for a JRPG, I'd feel, and this is not a JRPG, but it's an RPG with J in it. You would think you would want to play it for the story. But what seems to be a not uncommon consensus, and what I felt, is the story is very extravagant in presentation, but underneath it's nothing interesting to me. It's arbitrary to the story. Like, oh, every so often this thing happens, and it's like, well, that is a mystery unto the game itself, and I don't really care about that. Okay, why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because I do think, to add on to that, then when I was listening to people talk about the game, they were saying that, yes, the story, it's cool if you want it, but this game is actually serviceable enough on its own through the gameplay mechanics. And I was like, wow, that is actually very neat to hear. Because if I'm going to keep playing Expedition 33, it's going to be just for the exploring and looking at the beautiful environments and the mechanics. It's not going to be for the story. So I do think I'm going to continue to play it. In fact, I might do it right now. I just don't care to spend my time listening to someone tell me something, which again, it's probably cool. It's probably good. But my mind wants to be like, oh, what do I do with this? And how do I overcome that? That's kind of, it's French Persona Final Fantasy. Yeah. It has all of the JRPG stuff in it, which is funny because how Final Fantasy has kind of turned into a real-time. Although, again, this game, I keep forgetting, this game does have real-time combat. It's just, you choose the attack and then it initiates a real-time sequence. And actually, your reaction to the real-time sequences is fundamental to beating the game. Like, your leveling doesn't matter as much as your skill of the controller. That's another interesting thing about this RPG. It's less about just sitting there and finding the right thing to hit, and it's about getting the parry to do a major attack or getting the dodge to get another thing so you can do your special skill. Because if you don't, you can get killed very easily. Gotta love a successful attempt at a Western JRPG. Yeah, and I wonder if there's others, Autonomous or Chris. I wonder if you guys know of any other Western RPGs that were more JRPG-like, and I'm wondering if it's one that I've played before. And while I ask that, I'm going to jump into some other news real quick. Indiana Jones game is selling fastest on PS5 despite releasing months later. So that's really cool, and I guess that kind of makes sense because it was on Game Pass. So if you had Xbox or PC and Game Pass, it's like if you have Xbox and PC, you probably already have Game Pass, so you're probably not going to buy the game. I wonder if they actually delineate. No, because it's talking about sold, because it's even talking about Steam and all that. It's selling more. Yeah, because if someone has a Steam, a PC with Steam, they probably have Xbox. For people that are primarily PC gamers, you're probably also a Game Pass subscriber. Just because then you can play all the games on PC and then have your progress carry over on a console. Or the cloud, which is actually really awesome. So I can see why the PS5 would then, because if you were to maybe count Xbox and Steam together, which I don't know if they have that in here, that would make up a large amount. And then you got those other gamers that just have PlayStation. At the end of the day, it is so awesome And I want to reiterate this because, people like to throw shade at companies, but not always say good things. Xbox releasing their games on other platforms is awesome. Think of those days in Nintendo and Sega and the rivalry. Yeah, that was fun, but there was a lot of us, especially because games, not that they skewed younger, but the market was younger. They couldn't afford their consoles as much as you can today. Today, it almost doesn't matter if something's exclusive or not. Back in the day, that might have been a thing. So for Xbox to be like, yeah, exclusivity doesn't matter. We want to get our games in front of as many people as possible. I think that's awesome. Totally awesome. Probably a ton made by Chemco, since that's like 90s RPG Maker game. 90% RPG. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So there's probably quite a few from the West in there. Okay, but nothing like mainstream big. Oh, interesting. I'm looking at this. There was an ad for a racing game at the bottom left of my screen here, and that actually looked good, but no, now it's gone. Huh. It looked like a rally game. I'll have to see if... Oh, and then I'm seeing round one, and it's like Street Fighter. It makes me want to play a fighting game. Okay. Let's focus here, Adam. Let's move on. I think the big thing from that is Xbox is pretty cool. Okay, Bungie plans to nerf Marathon's mouse aim assist in next alpha patch. Okay, I want to bring up something because I could be wrong here. It just seems like a big deal this late in a game to decide on mouse aim or not, because that fundamentally affects the gameplay across the board. Like, if you're designing a game where it really requires the user to actually aim and shoot versus a game where you could be in the general area and it automatically and shoots, like, it kind of goes to what I've kind of seen with some first-person shooters that come out, some games. Oh, man, I can't remember what it was. Although, because I was just playing Tempest Rising, and I think that's how my brain's working. Back when Command & Conquer 3 first came out, I was really hardcore into it, where I was playing online, I was winning, I was in the rankings, I was really wanting to see, it would be my first time trying to enter a game in a competitive sense, even though I kind of don't care, it's just I love Command & Conquer. Well, then they came out with a patch that, like, I want to say less than a month before the tournament, they released a patch to completely change. Now, this tournament wasn't like a end-all be-all tournament, but it was the most official one that had existed. So it wasn't like that had some sort of precedent over patching. Anyway, the patch completely changed the game play. I don't know if you guys remember Command & Conquer 3. Crazy situations that happened there. After a few weeks, they completely changed the gameplay, and then the King's Wrath expansion came out later, which John Riccatello, CEO at the time, apologized to Command & Conquer fans with an open letter. It's funny how sometimes through these things, these companies will admit, yes, we messed up. Anyway, and so I'm just bringing this up because if you're changing this behavior, but then that's making me think. They just need to throw that out. I get that they're trying to balance between console and PC for crossplay. So that is the thing. They do have a base gameplay down, but they're willing to overlook that for the larger market, which is where games end up failing. It's almost like that idea of quitting something. You can't quit something. If they have a gameplay aspect in mind, you can't change it just because. So it's pretty cool that he brought this up, but it's only going to ruin the PC part of the game. You're just watering it down and making mouse and keyboard players on PC players feel like crap. PC players on mouse and keyboard would rather just improve their mechanics than have an assist. Yeah, and I think that's huge. And I think that's huge with games on a controller too, because I do feel like when there's the auto aim, the sticky aim, sometimes it works well. But there are times where I'm playing and then I'm trying to aim and then something comes by and and I'm like, what? I would prefer it not to be there, but I get it. There's this balance when you're making these games to make things. Isn't it kind of easy to think though? Just think of Atari and you had your joystick and you're playing Pitfall. If you're moving it, should they also add a little auto, like you went to move forward to jump and maybe you didn't push the stick all the way, so it auto. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's almost like it's not even necessary. It's just there as a what do you call it? The thing where when you want accessibility option, there you go. I see it as a good accessibility option, and not that it should be part of the frame of the game. Yeah. Okay, Star Wars Eclipse oh man, look, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. I wanted to buy that too. I'm just trying to be careful with money right now. Because I bought Tempest Rising last week and I'm about to beat it. So, or I did beat it. The reviews so far for City of the Wolves have been good. Anyway, advertising. Okay, Star Wars Eclipse concept art gives new look at missing in action Quantic Dream Star Wars game. Yeah, announced in 2021, and apparently they have some new concept art. But I gotta say, and I heard this yesterday too, is just kind of getting tired of Star Wars. It's how do I explain this without it sounding bad? Because fan fiction's cool, but I feel like for Star Wars they haven't really figured out what to do instead of corporate fan fiction. And over some time, it's just like, okay, what am I even looking at anymore? And I was watching, there is a YouTuber, I think his name is Matty Plays, and I do like how he composes himself because he's not a negative person, but he can critique. And he's actually pretty super positive. But he had this podcast the other day with two other people, and they were all in agreement. They're like, I think they were talking about Star Wars. They were talking about another property, but they brought it back to Star Wars. And it's like, how with Star Wars, isn't it where we all like Star Wars, but we're kind of over it, or it's like second tier now in terms of what we like? And they were kind of in agreement. And I'm like, man, that's too bad. It is really insane to see how far Star Wars has fallen, considering before Disney, when it didn't really have much. It had games, which was cool. And it had the Clone Wars show, but after episode 3, yet people were still excited. There wasn't even people talk down about the prequels, but there was still like cool excitement online. Clone Wars was a big deal. And then really you get a whole other company make the property, and it gets to a point where people are like, yeah, I'm done. If only, this is from Autonomous, if only they followed Legends in the first place, which is the best idea. That's things people are familiar with. There's more to those stories and ideas because people have been able to sit with them, and it's pretty crazy. Before Disney, it had shows, movies, games, novels, comics, toys. Yeah, and they weren't like force-fed to us. It was like regular drips. It was quality stuff. Yeah, it's almost like these companies mess up because they're trying to make their IP take over your life, but then you get tired of it. Clear Obscure Expedition 33 passes 1 million copies shipped, not including Game Pass players. So this is another thing I wanted to talk about with Expedition 33. And like, is it the talk of it being like a JRPG and that it looks like one is what helped it sell? I think so. Because I'm not into this type of game, so I was like, oh, I'd avoid this totally, but I wanted to check it out. I still think the name doesn't really do much, but that's cool in terms of like an artist wanting to tell a story and being able to name it whatever they want. And it still sold really well. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, especially didn't this drop the same time as Oblivion? I mean, that's just another example of, I think it's really cool that this game is doing well despite, and what I think helped? I think it's the cinematic JRPG, the creatively, artistically directed combat visuals. Because I do think people like the idea of playing turn-based because it's one step removed into a relaxing state, right? And so maybe there's something about, this is something I can just, turn on, jump into, get a cool story. Like, how many people would rather play a video game for the story than the game. It's just the game is the way to experience the story. It's very interesting stuff. My favorite part is their terrible defense that it's hard to make stories without something to base it off of while blatantly making bootleg legends. Exactly. That it's funny when you would hear even Kathleen Kennedy say we don't have source material. It's like, what? I mean, Shadows of the Empire would have been the perfect movie to come back with. Not that they needed to tell sequels or something, just like, well, we'll just adapt this into a movie. That's like this. I can't believe, no. Okay, let's see. Part of the sequel trilogy problem is that some people will crap on everything that gets close to it, even when it's something good. It is true. I do think sometimes there is this unwarranted hate, but underlying it all, there's some truth in it. I think and sometimes the unwarranted hate is misguided. Like, it's hard to understand, why isn't this good? And then it might be easy to be like, oh, it's because of the characters or it's because of this. And sometimes it's like, no, if you were really to break, like The Acolyte's a good example. If you were to break down the story and the beats, there's actually nothing there. It's a series of vignettes that are sometimes stitched together without any reasoning. And here's a fun, weird example. The latest Top Gun movie does that type of storytelling and does it correctly, where you're telling vignettes. Sometimes it's jumped from one place to another, not necessarily stitched together. Anyway. Yeah, and as bad as the sequel trilogy was, I mean, the Book of Boba Fett show, no, I don't even see any other studio that makes television right now that would make something as bad as that. Unless I'm far out with what I'm saying. I mean, and the Obi-Wan had cool stuff, but again, it's like, anyway. That could be a whole other show, couldn't it? Okay, after those 3 films, they haven't given the masses a reason to be hopeful. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, there can be bad stuff. But then when you can't even come up with any, and then you say one thing, and like, I guess there's also not a direction, right? We don't have a direction for what we're expecting out of Star Wars. And then having a Ryan Gosling Starfighter movie. So think about it. We have this whole world of Star Wars, but their way to sell us on another movie is the name of an actor. And nothing to do with what's next with Star Wars, Tell you, it is disappointing. But you know what? It happens. We've learned by now when big corporations have things. And it's not just the big corporations. What are the execs? Like Capcom is a perfect example. Capcom is one of the best video game companies. And it's funny where sometimes I don't feel like I talk about them a lot, but then I am doing that a lot. And then I was like looking recently, Onimusha Warlords, Resident Evil Village. And I'm wondering if there's another Capcom game as we go down here. I don't know, but the thing with Capcom is it's a father and son, if I'm not mistaken, that are the execs. The son came up with Monster Hunter. I feel like the way they move forward, third-person action, Japanese action, but it kind of melds with Western game. Like, I feel like Capcom's one. I can't wait to see Capcom come out with more. Oh, remember that game they came out with last summer that didn't do too well, but it was cool? It's like a little strategy game. See, that's what they can do because they make the big games that do well. I like Book of Boba Fett, especially the end. Well, Chris, I'm glad you liked that. I'm glad you did. But in context of Disney money and what we've seen them do before, and the legacy character of Boba Fett, and the fact that originally the Mandalorian show was that Mandalorian character was Boba Fett. So another problem with the Book of Boba Fett is that wasn't even originally the story. They just kind of put that together to make a Boba Fett show when originally the Mandalorian show was Boba Fett. He was coming back, getting back into bounty hunting. But Disney told Jon Favreau, you have to change the name of the character because they were going to do the Josh Trank movie, and then that didn't happen. So it's like they don't even have a foundation of what they're aiming for with any of this. And video game companies can be the same way. But Capcom, again, is one of those companies that they really know what they're doing. Capcom, yeah, and even though I don't always play most games from Capcom, like I would even say Rebellion. They came out with Sniper Elite. They came out with that Atomfall that I didn't really like too much, but it was still a good game. Rebellion, they're not huge. But that's an example of foundationally they know what they're trying to put out. So when they do, it works. I think Expedition 33 is a good example of that. It looks crazy from the outside, but the developers knew what they wanted to do foundationally from the bottom up. Yeah. I liked the trailer and when Mando was there. Oh, yeah. See, that's another thing they did with the Book of Boba Fett. They shoehorned an episode of Mandalorian because that's really what they were trying to do here. It's kind of disappointing. Selling a movie with an actor has been around since the 70s. They're aiming for the Thrawn trilogy, but the steps along the way are questionable at best. Yeah, that's another crazy example. They already had a Thrawn trilogy, and then they just in Clone Wars they added Thrawn, sure, but yeah, it's anyway. Enough of that. I feel like I could talk about that forever. Anyway, that's today's show. I didn't think there was going to be a lot to talk about, but I guess there was. But I'm going to head off to work. So all thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with some more game news. But until then, have a good one.